and welcome to TBH Beyond Borders, a podcast where I talk to inspiring international students. And today with me is Mazzi from El Salvador. Mazzi is one of my coolest friends. She's a DJ.
Oh, thanks for that.
Yeah, and thanks so much for coming, Mazzi. I know that you have a very hectic schedule, and that's why you're inspiring because you do so much.
Oh, thanks.
So thank you for removing time for this podcast.
It's great.
I just want to start off by, so you're from El Salvador, and I think most people will know about El Salvador in the sense that it is a country in Central America. Mm-hmm. Because I think at this point, if I know a country, I assume that everyone else also knows.
But no, I think most people wouldn't really know because it depends because most people would relate it with South America. So it seems like Central America never exists.
Right, because it's always... Because I think North America or Mexico and South American countries are so prominent. And also because they had the same kind of influence with Spanish and colonization. Mm-hmm. I think people
can't miss out on the whole Central America. And we're tiny compared to other regions. Yeah. But and on top of that, El Salvador is the smallest one in the whole American continent.
Right. It's the smallest and the densest.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's a bit crowded.
Yeah. So right now, maybe if we're starting with a country that many people might not have heard of.
Yes.
This is a good way to know that country, and hopefully maybe at the end of the podcast we would have at least kind of achieved that goal.
Yeah. You make you want to feel like going there.
Yeah.
Tourist.
You know what? I was actually reading up upon El Salvador, and I want to go there. And one of the things that really caught my eye was the architecture.
You think so? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because El Salvador has had a Spanish influence, but also a architecturally Gothic influence, where there's cathedrals and
it's very traditional in the Catholic side.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you would find a lot of churches that have been there for ages, made of wood and stuff like that. Some of them with some gold stuff and things like it. So it's the whole Spanish inheritance that we've got.
And I think that kind of fascinates me because that's also kind of European architecture. And as people in India, we have some of it because we had some Portuguese, Spanish influence.
True.
But I'm also very fascinated because I also like books like the Da Vinci Code and things like that.
Oh, right.
So I'm very intrigued by the entire 14th century Gothic architecture.
I think you would love it. And one of the good things about Central America, I would say, as a tourist, is that because it's small, you can cross countries within the same day and stuff. Yeah. So Guatemala is very rich in terms of that. Nicaragua as well. All of them, really. Yeah. So it's pretty.
And speaking about tourist destinations, I think one of the connecting link between Australia and El Salvador with respect to tourism is that both of the countries have great beaches that people come from and surfing.
Exactly. So actually, I met quite a few Australians in El Salvador. So they go there mostly for surfing experience because they're very brave waves in there. Very well. So we used to have Quicksilver cups and stuff like that. So they go after that. We got people from Canada, from the US, different places. So you see them and they have the time of their life. They might be there for a month and they love it because they can spend little money and have a really good time.
So is that also something that influenced you to choose Australia? Because not only, and Brisbane in specificity, because, so you are from San Salvador, which is the capital. And the interesting thing is that not only does El Salvador and Australia have the surfing and the beach life in common, but also Brisbane and San Salvador have the same population.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that. But you see, Brisbane's really, really big compared to El Salvador.
Yeah.
And then, if I want to fit, I can't remember how much it was, but I remember Googling how many times I could fit my whole country in Australia? And it was hundreds of times. It's quite a long story. I'll try to make it short as possible. I've always seen Australia as a great place. Yeah. But you never hear bad things about Australia besides the famous animals and stuff like that. Yeah. The dangerous ones and all that. But what got me inspired and really wanting to come here is that I lived in England for a year.
Yes.
And there were quite a lot of Australians there. Well, one friend in particular was saving up there to do a big trip in different places in Asia and then coming here back home from where he's from. And he then did a trip from Chile to Alaska on a motorbike.
Wow.
So he's quite a very... interesting person and adventurous one too. So when he pretty much finished his journey, I asked him, you've been in so many places. Which place would you choose to live? And he got back to me and said, I would go back to Australia for sure. And I said, why? You see, if you've seen everything.
Yeah.
And he said, no, because I know I have a roof over me. I can get a job regardless of what I do. And I'll have a good living. Doesn't really matter what I work in or anything. Because I said to him, if I would take a year from my career, if I say that to a job interview, they'll probably think I'm a hippie or something, and they wouldn't take me serious.
Right.
Said I already have trouble saying that I've worked in radio, and I'm an engineer, because they find no common path in them.
They get confused.
They don't see, or they don't see the benefit and how rich that could be for you as a person and how much you grow from traveling and stuff like that. They would just think I was just having a great time. So he said, no, I can do many things. And he was thinking about great things like, I bought this whatever brand motorbike. I can make a deal with them. I can work for them. Right. He actually now works for Red Bull. He's pretty cool.
Wow.
So,
no, I was going to say, because like if someone is so passionate about living an adventurous life, Red Bull is all about that
exactly.
adventure.
So he was like the greatest example of what an adventurous life
He was basically the Marlboro man for Red Bull.
Exactly.
Because that's really cool. From Chile to Alaska, that's like the entire...
He used to do like a diary thing where he was posting stuff. It was amazing. Yeah. And when he said that to me, that struck me. So it was maybe 2013, I think, when I first started looking for stuff to come here.
But that's a good stamp of approval. Yeah. Like if someone travels the entire world and goes like, okay,
Australia's
yours the place.
Great.
Yeah. Then he knows what he's talking about.
And I can definitely relate, and I can see that. And what you said about me coming to Brisbane particularly, nobody was waiting for me here, really, you see? So I could have chosen any city. But then I thought Sydney and Melbourne are quite big, might be hectic.
Yeah.
Price-wise might not be what I'm looking for. And Brisbane sounds a lot more cozy.
Yeah.
And on top of that, my dad's best friend lives in here.
Right.
So that was like having a piece of home.
Yeah.
And somebody close to me.
Someone that you know,
Yeah, and it's been absolutely the best choice I've made, and it's been great. Plus, the weather is quite similar.
Yes, because tropical climate in El Salvador,
Exactly. So it's been joyful.
Yeah, and also I think there's like an inclination of people who live in very busy cities, because you're from San Salvador, which is very dense and very populous. I'm from Mumbai, very dense, very populous. And we seem to have like a liking. You know how they say that grass is greener on the other side?
Yeah.
We kind of seem to have a liking towards cities like Brisbane.
In some way you relate to things, and it's not just like the city itself, it's the people, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think people in Brisbane are a little bit more warm and very kind. In general, I find Australian people very, very kind.
Yeah.
But in Brisbane, you kind of get that sense a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I think that's what links us to our cities.
So there's also a very interesting link between El Salvador and India, and it's not a link that a lot of people might assume, because we're very geographically very different, or very, very far away cities and countries. But there's actually one link, and I thought that was very interesting, which is the first and only, I don't know if it's the only, but the first elephant to ever walk on El Salvador was actually purchased from India.
No way.
Yeah, it was in the National Zoo that is in San Salvador. And so they got it from India, and that was the first elephant in El Salvador. And when he died, he became like an icon. So when people died, he was the first animal to ever get a veneration.
Are you talking about Manjula? Do you know
Manjula? Yeah.
Manjula?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So have you heard of the elephant? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I never knew that it was brought from India. Not a clue.
You know how I knew? Because when I heard the name Manjula, I was like, that's an Indian name. So I tried figuring out.
Way.
And I was like, yeah, that's
from India. I wasn't curious enough to look for a search for a name. Oh, that's so cute. Manjula was like the representation of the zoo. It was like the favorite animal.
Okay.
So my generation would be like, oh, Manjula, we'll have to go and see Manjula, at that point. So when he passed away, he was very heartbroken, particularly for the circumstances in which happens, and the way the zoo is now being taken care of, if it's taken care of. Manjula was a big icon for many of us generations, so thanks for that.
And I was very, I don't know, that's just
so
like,
cute.
It just made me feel really good about the world.
Yeah, because there's always going to be a link. And to be honest, I've thought, because we get a lot of influence from different countries in Latin America, particularly Mexico, I would say. And then we have a lot of people from China, for example.
Yeah.
But never have I found, I think there's a recent place with Indian food, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But we still haven't got into it that much.
So you spoke about Indian food, but before I jump into that, I want to ask you, can you guess how many Indians are there in El Salvador?
I don't know, but very few. Around 20?
Close. It's less than 12.
No.
What I was just thinking is that El Salvador has 2.2 million people. And there are 12 Indians. How important are these 12 Indians? When someone had to check how many Indians are there, they went to 12 people and they were like, yes, that's it. It's such a task.
I can't think. And then I think it's, in terms of culture, there would be quite similarities. Yeah. So why wouldn't we have more?
Exactly.
That would be my question.
Because food, like you said, I was actually looking at El Salvador food and I was like, that's, it was appealing. And one of the food items that I found, I want to get this right. It's called pupusas. Pupusas.
Yes.
I just want to check with you first. So it's basically made out of flour and...
corn base?
Yeah.
And do you know Mexican tortilla?
Yeah.
So it's thicker than that, chubby. And you fill it
in with cheese?
Normally cheese and beans, or it can be pork. There are different fillings, but those are the most popular ones.
So it really blew my mind because when I looked at it, I was like, this is a paratha. And then when I read about it, it's made with corn and flour and filled with cheese. So that's a cheese paratha. And I was like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, there will always be something different.
Yeah, exactly.
So taste-wise, but looking, it could be
so that's another link into food, and it's something that I want to try now because I know it's going to be different, but at least I have a common link. When you try something completely different, you don't know what you're going to expect.
Yeah.
But when you have an link,
idea of
you
something,
get more interested.
I'll take you somewhere. There are a few places in here actually.
Because I really
and they're actually good because sometimes you don't get as good as you get back home.
Right.
So there are just few ones in here, but they're pretty good.
So that's validated good El Salvadorian food.
So I'm proof of that. No, it's really, really good.
You were in London for a year because you were at the City Business School?
Yeah, I was in a City Business College for a year. I was doing some small diploma in business, but also doing preparation for IELTS at that point. Yeah. It seems like it never ends. But I was there for a year. But more than the study-wise at that point, because of my age and everything, it was like a break from uni because I was doing my engineering at the same time, back home, and I cut it off to go there. Yeah. It was mainly because I was trying to pursue the traveling a bit. Yeah. And because I had an opportunity to work with a German agency that was going to help me get gigs. Yeah. So I thought, if anything, this is the right time, I was thinking, to do it, and I think it worked out. So I got to stay that year and fly to different places. Get to know a bit of different places, blah, 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 and then going back home and just having to finish the engineering.
Yeah. I'm very perplexed right now. Normally, these podcasts are very organized, but with everything that you have done, it's so much that I don't know how to approach it. You essentially, you did a bachelor's back home in industrial engineering,
yeah.
And then you did a master's. No, then you went to City Business School along with that. Then you did a master's in marketing from the San Salvador University.
No, that one was done online in a Spanish university.
Okay. So, should have done my research well. And then, so after that, now you're doing your master's in MBA and project management and engineering. Yeah. In Torrance University.
Exactly, that's it.
That's amazing. I'm just doing my first master's and I'm like, that's it for me. Yeah. And you've done so much, and it's amazing that you've. And I kind of think that it's also. I don't know if it was motivated, but I would guess that because you also have an interest in music, I think you would be more inclined towards going to different places, finding out different culture,
I think it has a lot to do discovering new things. Yeah. So I find this to be a good and a bad thing in my life sometimes because I'm curious to learn different things. Yeah. So you see, if I was everybody in radio would have thought that I was going to study communication, for example.
Right.
But I didn't want to go in that route.
Right.
Not that I don't find it fascinating, it's great, but I wanted something different.
Yeah.
And then I come here and I want to do, because there's so many things going on, I want to do from the knitting class to the database class, anything that I can find.
Yeah.
Just because I think you learn from everything. I'm not mind to end up being an expert on any of them.
Yeah.
But if anything, what I learned from radio, which I always say has been my greatest school, with dealing with people, talking to people and approaching people, has helped me along the way to get a particular job, to study something, to communicate with people. And when you travel, you can you make that like another big level of challenge.
Yeah.
And the cultural differences are very there. Because you see, back home, we're all pretty much the same in a way. But then when you come here, there's so much variety in people from different places that I don't know. Like, we're a very touchy culture, and not everybody's the same here. So I've had trouble with that. And I'm not really a touchy person, so I'm considered a very cold person.
You are a cold person in the context of
that standard, exactly, for that standard. Like, I hug people, but I just do like a tiny tap in the back. Whilst my cousins will be like a big hug, very tight. Yeah. So even for me, it's been quite a challenge here in Australia. Like, I don't know whether I can kiss you on the cheek or not, because your culture might be so different.
Yeah, it's always a challenge to navigate culture. Yeah. And, I actually spoke about this, is that, so one of the first meetings that we had, we were going to some event, cinema thing, I'm not sure.
Oh, I think,
Yeah, so basically, like, because I'm from, so in India, I don't know, there's so many different religions and so many different cultures, it's really hard to say which one is like the most common method of greeting. But where I come from, it's like, it's maybe like a side hug or something,
Right.
So, and that aside, like, Indians are very warm people, but I personally, I'm very like, I'm awkward, I'm like very like non-touchy person.
Yeah.
So when like, me and I don't know, we were like with a group of other ambassadors and we met you. And you went in for like a hug, and I got really like flustered. And that wasn't you; it's just me being awkward.
No, because I had somebody explaining to me. Like, I remember I hadn't like kissed him or anything. Yeah. But I think he was like warning me, like he didn't mean to be rude or anything, but he was explaining me why and all his reasons. And I thought, okay, that absolutely makes sense, but hadn't you told me, I would have probably done it, and I didn't mean to do it at all, because it's just like your top of head that you do that, and but it's difficult. It's
also made me think of the things that we do as maybe like Indians that might not be essentially conventional with other cultures, and I'm like, it's fascinating. And in that podcast where I like brought this up, I don't think I mentioned your name or anything because I'm very polite like that, but I also mentioned that it's silly that we don't do it, and it's silly that we are not that warm as y'all are. Like, everyone should be that warm, because I think that's a good culture to have.
Yeah, I like it. I don't mind it at all. But I think even if you're from that culture, some people just don't.
Right. It's obviously it's hard to navigate.
But for me, it's always going to be like the natural thing to do.
Yeah.
So the only thing I sometimes wear is that I don't want to offend somebody.
Right.
So unless you tell me, then I wouldn't know, because I'll just go for hugs, kisses, and people would be like, I think I know where that was. And you were with Moyne, and we were going to watch the movie. I kind of got that a little bit too.
And I felt so bad. I'm like, because I felt like I was being rude.
No, but at that time, if you hadn't told me now, I wouldn't get it. I think I got it when, oh my God, I can't remember his name.
Ismail.
Yes. Yeah. When Ismail explained me. Yeah. So I think that's when I linked back to seeing you, and then I thought, okay, so it's not just him, might be quite a few more people that might not finding this too comfortable. Yeah. And that's when I thought, oh my God.
But it's really interesting, and I think like over time we're all like getting more educated. We're both like learning about everyone's cultures, and now I think we're at a place, or we're going to a place where everyone is comfortable in the sense that understands what is a part of a culture. Yeah.
No, it's great. And see, for example, when I see Hiyu, she's from Korea, South Korea. She's so polite in so many ways, like when she leans and she does that, and I find that absolutely gorgeous, so cute, right? And I like the respectfulness and all of that. Yeah. And I'm not sure whether Koreans are warm in the sense of hugging each other, but because she's been in so many places, she's got like this beautiful mix of things that is
you
very
pick
nice.
up like the things that you like from every culture.
Yeah, what makes you comfortable.
Exactly.
No, it's really nice.
Yeah. You have been in so many different institutions. I want to know, like, what was, like, university did you have most fun in, or that you found that, okay, wow, this was my favorite time?
I think I would say when I did my engineering, just because I was home and I was more comfortable with everything, I knew more people. Most of the people that study in my school go for that university.
Okay, so you had like people coming from
that already
school.
Knew.
Yes.
And it's the whole fascinating thing of first going to uni.
Yeah.
Like when you do your master's, sometimes you work and you're doing other stuff, so you come in and out and you don't really make your best friends. Some people say that you make your best friends in school, others do it in uni. But I think for me I had my really great best friends from school. And then I also continue to have really good friends in university. So I think that's when and masters are great, but then you're already quite prepared for that.
Yeah.
Plus, when you come from school to uni, it's a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
So I think it was more challenging, and that's why I enjoyed it more. Plus, I was doing radio, so it was my first job at the same time, so I had to balance it up.
So it was the first time you had like a job and uni happening together. Right.
So it was difficult too, but great.
And you mentioned radio. So you basically worked at ABC Radio or Radio ABC. I'm not sure.
Oh, ABC Radio.
ABC Radio. Yeah. So you've worked there for like more than a decade.
Yeah, I was there for like 14 years.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And I also should mention, and I'm sorry I'm mentioning this so late, but even before the podcast started, and I'm not sure if you remember this, but we went to this Winter Harvest Festival.
Exactly.
And before, I had this idea for a rough podcast, but like nothing was really there. And we were just talking about like your life, and I was always fascinated that you're doing your master's, and like you have taken like an unconventional route in the sense that you are pursuing what you like academically, which is not necessarily the same as what you like as a passion or a hobby, as like something you love. And I relate with that because my academic inclination is Masters of Molecular Biology, but I'm into filmmaking, theatre, podcasting, which is
it's great. That's
crazy.
What I was saying to you. It's fascinating, and I love it.
Yeah. And so I could relate to you, and I was talking to you about you as a DJ, and you mentioned your experiences at Radio ABC and how you overcame that, and that is like the first proper moment when I remember, like, okay, I have to do a podcast. Mazzi has to be the first one.
Oh, thank you. That's great. No, but you see, radio is a really big part of my life. I started very young, so don't make numbers on that. But so I started since I was in school, basically. So not many people work when you're in school.
Yeah.
So for me, it was difficult because I had to... the big parties when you're in your last few years and all of that. I missed so many of those, so I wouldn't fit in school because I wasn't going to those things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was doing something that I loved so much. But I was being academic on radio as well.
Right.
Because I was like learning music, learning where things were, how to program and stuff like that. But it was 14 years, and it's a great industry because you never stop learning, and you get to meet people a lot, and at the same time, it has this coziness because in a way nobody really knows you.
Yeah.
So you can get away with most people not even knowing your face.
Yeah, I think it's much harder. You become such a prominent figure in a public eye when you have like a face attached. I think with the radio, there's like convenient anonymity. There's obviously like some kind of like a coziness or like a comfort.
It's like talking to yourself a bit.
Yeah.
It's like you would have to be a little bit crazy to do that. And if anything, I was never really an outgoing person of anything. So I think nobody in my school would expect me to work in radio.
Right.
So I wasn't the kind of person that you would think that I was going to end up on that. And when I was at that age, maybe 16, 17, I was pursuing something bigger than I wanted to be the director of the radio because I was more into choosing and selecting music, but never into talking.
Right.
Because I was like, oh no, I don't think I'll be good at that. But I started it without knowing that I was going to love it so much. Yeah. But because it was so challenging, I kind of wanted it even more. Yeah. And because it was at that point particularly, very male-dominated time. There was only one girl working there. So I found it like most people would say, no, you won't do this, you won't do that. Well, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to prove it to you. Yeah. And then most of the DJs that were playing at the clubs at that point too were only men.
Yeah.
So then I thought, I want to be because I like the radio stuff, but I want to be the DJ too.
Yeah.
But I want to learn from them, but I kind of don't want one in particular to be my mentor. I want to learn from all of them.
Right.
And I also didn't want somebody to say, "Oh, I taught you," right? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. You don't want anyone to be like, "Oh, I made you."
Exactly, particularly because you're a woman. At that point, what I found it difficult because of my age too, I think, because you get criticized, but because it's a very macho-dominated country still. Yeah. So what I would find, because people would say, "Oh, it's easier for you because you're a woman." And you stand out because it's just you.
But they don't know it's like the opposite of... It's the exact opposite.
I would find it more difficult. Yeah. I'm going to say this. It's good because you might be just the only one in a way, so you get a lot of focus on. But at the same time, I'll get the criticism from the women being really rude to me about anything. From makeup to what you're wearing to what you actually DJ, even if they wouldn't have a clue what you're doing. And then the guys, because the guys didn't want you or anybody to take the room, particularly in such a small place that everybody's so competitive. Yeah. But over time, it was like I couldn't care less anymore, and I was like, I love it. This is not my career in a sense of academic. Yeah. And I'm so lucky to be able to do the two things I love the most. Yeah. And at some point, I did the three things that I wanted the most because I was in radio as a programming and talking as a host. Yeah. I was doing the DJ thing on not daily basis, weekly basis, and I was doing my engineering from 8 to 5. Wow. So at that point, it was great. Like I had everything, and that's when I decided to come here. So because I wanted a different thing.
Right. You had pursued these things, and you had like gotten comfortable with these things. So I understand where you come from when you say like you wanted to change an environment. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's great to do at home, but there's still a lot of stigmas in many things. So if I go for the engineering side, if I reach 40, I'm too old for certain jobs, right? I'm not 40, just to clarify. I'm not 40,
but why would that? Is that something that's just like what the society perceives, that there should be like you shouldn't get engineering jobs after 40 if you're...
Like any job, pretty much. Like it might be seen... I'm not saying this happens everywhere, but in general, your career path ends at certain time when you're still young. Okay, yeah. Because they kind of ask for people in their 30s with like 10 years experience when I would have probably still been 22, still in uni and stuff like that. So it's very difficult. So although I loved my jobs and everything I did, I kind of wanted somewhere that I would feel more freely and that I could have a wider range of things to do. Yeah. So going back to my friend from Australia, from here, that he said something like, I said to him, my DJ time might be ending at some point soon. I said to him, I was like, why? Because I'll be getting older, and nobody's going to want to see an older woman playing on the next. And he said, if you go to Australia, that doesn't happen there. Yeah. Of course, there's like these beautiful younger people and all that. But you see everybody, and they have the time of their life. Yeah. Like, I'm not asking to play in the biggest festivals or anything. I just want to be able to do what I want. Yeah. And that's something I can have in here, I find it. So that's when I thought, what I'm doing here is great, but it might not last for good. Yeah. Whilst if I go somewhere where people are a little bit more open-minded about things and more like free spirit, then I would be able to do that. And there's a lot of pressure in many things back home. Right. I'm not sure how it's back in India, but I think for women-wise, it is quite... I consider myself still being really, really lucky. Yeah. And I managed to deal with so many things, even for the engineering side, because there are not that many women in engineering.
Exactly. You are... So you are in engineering, which is like STEM, basically, science, technology, engineering. Yeah. Then it's known for being male-dominated. Yeah. And you were also in radio, which was male-dominated. Yes. And you were in a society which was male-dominated. Yeah. And you wanted to do different things, which was, again, unconventional.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
It was challenging. And I've spoken about this a lot back home. And I didn't want people to see this. I wasn't complaining or anything. If anything, it makes you grow a lot more. So you have thicker skin by now. Yeah. And it made me go from one place to another one. And no, it's been great, I think. But then I appreciate things a lot more. Yeah. And I'm hoping that, and I'm seeing changes that I'm really, really happy about. There are more women in radio, there are more women in DJing. And I didn't want this competitiveness to carry on. Like, when I first started, there were a couple more female DJs, and people would start gossiping about us. Like, oh, she doesn't get along with this other one. Like, I haven't even met her. How am I not going to like her if I haven't even met her? Right. So things like that. Yeah. And I'm hoping that that's going to change, because if anything, particularly because we're such a small country, we should support each other a lot more.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's always going to be room for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't expecting to be everywhere.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to be able to freely do it. There was nothing as nice as having my 2 hours on my own.
Yeah.
With nobody bothering me or anything. Talking to myself in a way, playing the music that I loved.
Yeah.
It was great. And then been able to talk to people. And when you pass that stage and you meet this person, there was this fascinating feeling when somebody, because it happened a couple of times, not for everybody, but I would have people that would recognize me because of my voice. Okay. That was something I found it incredibly nice of people. Yeah. Like, oh, I know you. It happened with some colleagues from other radios, because I think you've kind of developed that sense of listening to yourself and stuff like that. But it happened with other people that just would listen to the radio. And the way they connect with you without knowing you and just by listening to you. I don't even get the response back, you see. Yeah,
it's just like this one-way audio communication. Exactly. And that also creates a bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And I love it because I got to have this communication with them. Yeah. And because radio, it's beautiful because it's for everybody. Yeah. There are no social things there. Yeah. No.
Everyone's the part of the same group of audience. Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. You can talk to somebody that has a lot of money, or somebody who hasn't got, somebody who is a doctor, somebody who is whatever. Yeah. But it's still there. It's the same feeling. Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that I love the most, and the connection with people that I might not have at this moment, but it's still there with the ones I've kept. So, yeah.
I also understand, I completely vehemently disagree with the notion that, the age association with DJing and things like that. But I also agree that is something that's there in arts, basically. Like, even when it comes to, say, acting, like, even like the biggest actresses have problems once they pass an age, which is silly, because you would, like, if anything, experience and age would make plus. Them better actors. Yeah. And it's there in all creative fields, most creative fields.
Yeah, I think we suffer from that.
Yeah, and it's absurd, especially for something like DJing, where but because it doesn't happen in music. Like with male music, when people who started off, and like Justin Timberlake after 10 years, people will be like, oh yeah, he started off young, but now he's a legend.
Yeah, exactly.
But then women, for some reason, when they get older, they don't become legends.
No,
yeah, it's crazy.
It's very difficult. I would say that the only person not the only, but one of the few ones that has made this difference, Madonna.
Yes.
So that's why I really, really like her. Put aside the silly things that she might have done anything, because she's done quite a few, but nobody's perfect. And on top of that, she's been a genius in managing herself and staying all this time, and
like staying relevant.
Really tough.
Yeah, putting off music,
because it's not for everybody. It's really, really tough. And you see, I haven't been famous. I haven't traveled the world as much or anything. But even the tiniest bit that I did, I still find it difficult. It's difficult to be back away from home, and then you move to another place. But then you're traveling, so you don't go back to your home. You just go back to the other place where you've been.
Yeah, yeah.
So everything seems to be a challenge, and having to deal with people, trying to make your way in it. So no. But for some reason, for women, it can be a little bit more tricky.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that's the way.
But it shouldn't be.
And it shouldn't be.
That's
I hope
the way, but it
so.
shouldn't
Hopefully,
be.
Hopefully it will change.
Yeah. We spoke about stigma, and we spoke about how disadvantaged your situations have been, in the sense that women in engineering, women in radio, and women in El Salvador. But there's also the fact that even in DJ, when it comes as a component of music, I think DJ gets the least respect, in the sense that people have this pop culture image of DJs just playing like a button or something, which is crazy.
It is. I can kind of get it, because it's, a singer sings and you can see it and all that, but the DJ's just there behind a booth sometimes.
Exactly. So people are like, oh, I can't see him do anything, so he's not doing anything. Yeah, it looks like he's
going pressing one bottom up to another one. I think there's a bit of everything, because I've had that too a lot of the time. But the problem is, I think it's happened for people assuming things too.
Yeah.
So I saw this video of an interview saying, do you know what a DJ does? They went on the street and asking, I was like, oh, they press play and stuff like that. It's not really just that, and it's everyone's taste too. Yeah. So what you could consider the best DJ might be somebody's worst DJ.
Right.
It's very subjective.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that DJs are so different in many sense. So for example, I'm not a musician per se. Like I've learned tiny bits of things to do with music, but I've never pursued like playing a lot of instruments or anything. I like music selection and making people dance and enjoy a night, right? Whilst there's other people that have a wider range because they play many instruments, they know this and that, they produce music. So I never consider myself a musician.
Right.
There's DJs that consider themselves musicians. Right. That's up to anybody.
There's DJs and producers.
Exactly. Yeah. There's DJs and producers. There's a bit of everything. So in my case, that's not the sense. And people sometimes judge you because they think that you have claimed to be all of that. Right. And I've never claimed to be any of that because I'm not. So it'd be silly of me. But no, I've just enjoyed that range, which might be a smaller range compared to other people. So that spectrum, let's say that way. So what I've done is just music selection-wise. Yeah. And I try to play in places that are suitable for me. Right. So I would sometimes reject things because I wouldn't be their best fit for things. Right. So if they were asking me for a particular genre that I don't really know of, then I might say no. Yeah. And I'll say, you're better off work with this other person. Because as much as I would want to be paid for that or something, it wasn't good for me and I wasn't going to enjoy it. So, and they would have a graded outcome with somebody else. Yeah. So it was great. So I would say I worked for a hotel for like nearly 4 years. I was in their bar, so I was playing lounge music. Yeah. Then I was also doing at the same time an hour show in radio with like new disco and that kind of things. Yeah. So those were the things that I liked it. And then I also liked tech house, for example. Yeah. So it was different, but that was about my genre. That's your
forte, what you like to delve into. Yeah.
So it's the misconception of that, and it's about music selection. So as I said, like somebody might play great, I don't know, like what's trap music. Yeah. I don't particularly love trap music, but for somebody it might be their genre and they love it. Yeah. I might not find it. And there's the other thing that you can find a good DJ because of their technique, not really for the music they play, right? But their technique might be so good as a DJ. Yeah. So it's a bit of everything. It's very ambiguous and very subjective to what you like.
So we're like 300 meters or even lesser than the UQ Art Museum, and I'm just thinking that in museums there are art curators. Art curators aren't artists. They curate art. They present art in a way that it makes the most sense or is the most aesthetically pleasing or just like good for people's taste and things like that. So in the world of art, there are curators and that people completely understand. However, when you just have the same thing in music,
in a different,
when DJs are curating music to make sure that people, to make a bigger art.
To create a bun and, I don't know, some sort of connection with people. Yeah. I think it might be a thing of, most people would be visuals. Yeah. So I'm thinking that might be one of the reasons. Well, I consider myself have been like 50 visual and 50 like how you speak to me. Yeah. So I say my other side from the engineering things, I was more in like technical sales. Yeah. So the way I would relate this was that the way that a client would talk to me and his manners and the way he would look at me. So it's a bit of audio and visual. Right. Then I would think, I don't think he was telling the truth, for example. I don't think he was genuine that he wanted this or something. So it has a lot to do with how people perceive it. Yeah. And not everybody, because visually when you see somebody, you don't really see it from the perspective of what they're doing. Yeah. Because you see their faces only and jumping up and down. Yeah. So it would be quite difficult to understand for some people.
But it is, it's just absurd that people curators curate art and people are like, oh wow, bravo. And,
that's fine.
And bravo indeed. And also I've noticed, and I was just thinking about this, that the DJing phenomenon has also had like this weird graph where I remember when I was in school, when I was in 8th and 9th. So like DJing was everything. Like Like DJs were like the cool, like,
Coolest
and you can see
people.
that in like I actually went back and I was watching like old Bollywood movies, and the DJs in
they're
every
everywhere.
Bollywood movie is like the coolest person in the entire film. Yeah. So the point that I'm getting to is like earlier, like DJs had this cool factor, which is amazing. And then suddenly everyone suddenly had this assumption that DJs just press play off for some reason. However, what makes me really happy is that now there is another upward trend where like a lot of DJs are a part of popular culture.
Yes.
Some of them are producers.
Yeah.
But it's also
work with pop stars and everybody.
Yeah.
So the way I've seen it is I'm not like entirely, what am I saying, like study-wise in that sense, but what I've noticed, and then I thought it was a big difference that changed the whole thing. Like DJs used to be in like weddings, parties, and nobody couldn't care less about them. But in terms of being popular, there was a time when I noticed that it was a big change. So there were DJs getting paid nothing, to show up. And David Guetta, I think, had a lot to do with that.
Right.
So as far as I know, I'm not sure whether this is a real fact, his wife at the time and manager was very, very smart in the sense that he was producing. But you see, the producer, sometimes they don't get the name out. Yeah. But he was a DJ as well. So she would apparently made compulsory for the artist to showcase him on their videos. So
if he's a producer.
If he was the producer, he would show up as a DJ in, for example, I Got a Feeling from Black Eyed Peas.
Yes.
That one, he did one with Rihanna and so on, right? So that's when all these award-winning ceremonies and all of that started having DJs.
Right.
The Olympic Games, that sort of things. So people used to like some DJ producer musics, but you would never know the faces.
You would never know. Like Kanye West used to be a producer for Jay-Z. And essentially even now with like rap artists, a lot of rap artists do use producers because they don't make the beats. They make rhymes and they do that side of it. But they get a beat from a producer.
Behind,
and the producer never has like a...
No, the big, I think for some of them they don't want that spotlight.
Yeah.
But in the sense of DJs, it helped out a lot to the point where they're like massive pop stars now and they're getting ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, and like now, like one example is DJ Khaled, who's like everyone who's famous or Billboard #1, everyone wants to work with him.
Yeah.
So so we're kind of like, it's bringing back the reputation or the respect that people had for the skills of a DJ or a producer. Yeah. I still feel like it's more towards the producing side because people still can't get their heads wrapped around the fact that that there's a skill set that DJs need.
Different, yeah.
And just because you can't see that, it's like editing. Like I used to do movie editing, and people always say it's a thankless job. There are quotes like that you've been a really great editor when people don't know it was edited.
Exactly.
Like,
so it's smooth.
And I think
so it's
that's
very similar to DJing.
Yes.
Yes. You don't notice changes.
Yes.
You feel like you've been in a same loop sort of way. Yeah, exactly. That's a very way to put it up there. So, for example, when you were saying about producing and DJing, in my opinion, for example, Avicii was a great producer.
Yeah.
But I didn't think he was as good as a DJ.
Right.
So he probably didn't like it as much.
Yeah.
But it was his best way to make money.
Yeah.
So he would get money for one night in Las Vegas or anything.
Right.
So he was pushed to do so many gigs that he would have been tired, he would have not liked it.
Right.
He might have not been good at it because maybe that's not what he wanted.
Yeah.
So that was my opinion. But there's people that might not be such great producers but very good DJs, and there's people that are great at both of them.
Yeah.
So yeah. But having said Avicii, like, in his sense, because he had the music recognizable, there's people that wouldn't even notice if he did a bad mix or something. Because you would just be singing along. So it depends on how you see it, really.
Yeah. And it's also subjective, where like,
to taste
everyone has a
what
taste.
you like.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that in El Salvador, on the architecture especially, there's a lot of Christian influence. Mm-hmm. Has there been a religious influence, or have there been like any musicians or any genres of music that you've really been influenced by?
No, to be honest, when years ago, like most people would have been Catholic, so when I was born or something, now there's in the same sense of Christianity, but there'll be like evangelist, maybe Mormons too, and everything. Yeah. So I haven't actually followed our religion per se. And I might have not had the greatest experience in some churches.
Yeah.
Oh, at the same time, I did have great ones. So it was a bit of everything,
Yeah.
but it made me more of a, like just pursuing myself to be a better person.
Yeah.
Instead of having to go to pray somewhere else.
Right.
I would just do things that I would think would be best, not just for me, but for, whoever were next to me. So I haven't actually got any influence from that,
right.
really.
Because there's a lot of so it's obviously in Hinduism there's a lot of music involved because we have prayers and things like that.
With that.
But even in Christianity there's a lot of church and music and choirs and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there are many, but no. Might be also because the type of thing that I like is quite different.
Yeah.
But I know there's people that would relate to that.
Right.
And there's even a Christian DJ back home.
That's
There's
nice.
people doing I haven't seen him or anything, but I've heard of that. So I don't exactly know how to do it, but I find it really interesting because that just means that it's for everybody. Because at some point there will be this stigma that a DJ is a really crazy person that drinks and all of that. And to me, that's always been difficult because I've liked studies and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say I'm a nerd or anything.
Yeah.
I'm not an academic, very, very academic person. I just like to learn things that I like.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I like the fun things, but I'm not the one that would be going out every weekend. Not at all. I would go out to the things that I was supposed to be playing. Because I wanted to be there and I wanted to be the one putting the music. So I wouldn't be nerd enough to be with the nerds, and I wouldn't be hippie enough to be with the hippies.
Right.
So it was.
You were not falling into the conventional idea of either the nerds or the DJ image that people have. Yeah.
And it gave me trouble at many points because I would go to job interviews, and there was a thing that I'm hoping it'll be cut off in El Salvador pretty soon because you would be getting done some polygraphs, and I find it ridiculous, but I had nothing to hide, absolutely nothing. So I would always say yes to them. But I followed a couple of them.
Yeah.
And I never got an answer why. So my only assumption was that supposedly you get asked some questions and then they will repeat you back the ones that they think you might have been lying about.
Yeah.
So I would get things like, have you ever tried drugs? I've never tried a single drug. If I had, I wouldn't lie about it. Because for some people, that's their path and they've tried it. They've tried different things. I just chose not to.
But that's the image that people have of
the perception,
which kind of makes it hard on an employable point of view.
Yeah, exactly.
Where the employer is always very suspicious.
Yeah, there's no trust
when
they think that you've done something. So they ask you, have you ever been drunk? I wouldn't consider myself somebody that drinks.
Yeah.
Because I'll try things, but I don't really
You're
like it.
You're one of the nicest people. You are people have a very weird image of DJs. And you break that stereotype.
Oh, thank you. So I don't think some people saw that back home. So I had trouble because of that. And I don't know why. They would come back to me and ask me that. Well, I would have my friend doing a polygraph there saying, oh, yeah, I used to have a joint, marijuana or whatever. And I'm like, did you pass it? Yes, I did. And I'm like, right, it's good. You didn't lie.
Yeah.
I didn't lie. There was a point when I even said to the person doing it, I said, if you want me to say that I've tried, I'll say yes. But I haven't, and I'm telling you the truth. So I remember calling my mom in the very last few interviews that I had before getting the job that I really liked, crying out and saying, Mom, I hate this place. I hate it. I don't really hate it at all. But I hated the fact that you would have to be forced to do that.
Right.
And I said, I hate people that judge me on that basis. I don't want to take off my experience in radio because it helped me.
Yeah.
It made me me.
Yeah.
And then I got to this other place a month after. I had been searching for a job for 6 months. And this lady that took my CV, she found that fascinating. And she said, oh, you've been this, you've done this. And I'm like, it's great because I can see you expressing yourself really well and blah, blah, blah. And you've been in England, so your English must be good. And I'm like, I'm hoping so. But that was years ago. And she saw the value in that.
Right.
But she was differently minded.
Yeah.
Because she had traveled too.
Yeah.
So I think if anything, I would suggest to people to always travel.
Yeah.
Try to travel. I'm not saying you spend all your money travel. But try to have some experiences.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure this might happen back home. When you go back there, you fit in there.
Yeah.
But you've seen a lot more.
Right.
So you
have a different perspective. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you value things that are amazing from home.
Yes.
But you also, like for Australia, I find so many great things in Australian people that I would love to bring back to home.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah. I think that's really important, where everything that you learn, or when you like study a different course, but also when you when you study a different course, you kind of having a new perspective on things, but it's also very similar to living in a different country, which is where you're subconsciously learning how different societies work, different cultures work, and you're also subconsciously learning.
Exactly.
And you can also apply that back home. But it's really, I think this is absurd that like people, especially when it comes to a DJ, people would rather believe like their own idea that people do drugs,
their
DJs
own
do
perception,
drugs, over a polygraph test. Like people would rather believe their own prejudices over a test, and it's absurd.
And the kind of questions that you get asked as well, like I was asked, when was the last time I had gone to church? Not going to church wouldn't make me a bad person.
Right.
Like there's so many mean people in church. Not every church. Must clarify that. But yeah, it doesn't really mean nothing means 100% of people. Like there's good people in your country, there's bad people in your country, there's good people in my country, there's bad people everywhere. So we can never generalize. You can never say, oh, these nationalities, they're all this way or this other way. If there's one that's different, not everybody's the same. So no, it was a bit frustrating, and I think that was another reason why I pushed to come here and just get a different perspective of things.
But I'm glad that you're where society and people are more open. I think in general people here are more accepting and more open-minded. And I hope that over time, because there are countries that are still evolving, and
it will take some time. It has a lot to do with how we were conquered.
Colonized by
the colonization, and it seems like sometimes you take most of the bad things with it.
Right.
So it will take some time, and you know how we ask for changes, and we think that the president or whoever is in charge of the country is going to change the whole thing suddenly from overnight. But it's like little things. You surely have some examples, but in my case, when people give you away in the street in here, I'm not saying it doesn't happen back home, but not in the same proportion at all. And how kind and mindful are you about animals, for example?
Right.
That's a big difference. When you see a spider back home, that's a threat. It doesn't matter whether it's a real threat or not. You're just going to want to kill it. When in here, I've seen videos of people finding ways or in YouTube how to pick it up and put it somewhere else. It's fascinating. And I say, actually, there's no harm in it. And if anything, somebody said to me, oh, you've gone to the place where it's more dangerous animals in the whole world. Nothing's happened. I've never actually seen anything.
I'm actually, at this point, I'm disappointed. Australia, you're disappointing me. I haven't seen a single snake or a spider. You know what? I've seen spiders. I haven't seen snakes.
I've seen spiders, no snakes. Well, I've seen them in zoos and stuff, but not I bumped into one. No, I'm not sure whether I want that. I would like to bump into a koala and take it home. A baby koala, but no spiders or anything. But it's still really, really nice. The conscious of all those things that we don't have for some reason. Would be really nice to start building.
And that's also, it makes sense. It's always a two-way thing, because there's also I see different cultures here. For example, when you have when you want to take something from a country that would kind of benefit your people, you take it back home. But then you also go to different countries and see your own culture everywhere, which means that it's a two-way thing. I see a lot of Indian culture in everywhere I go.
Oh yeah, that's great. But to me, it's a bit frustrating, because when you think about El Salvador being a small place with great weather, great people, a lot of potential. We can have a lot of potential in coffee, for example. We used to have before war. Maybe now it's not as big as that. So it's frustrating because it's just there. You got the people, you got everything. But at the same time, it's a mind thing that we haven't changed, the setup. But if we did, it would be so great. It's really difficult to try to change that overnight, but it shouldn't take much than trying to make the country better with just your manners. That would be a really great thing.
And isn't that kind of what you're doing? So essentially I spoke about the different universities and the different things that you've done, but you've also worked for different global organizations. You worked for the Commonwealth Games, you worked for the MDA. Currently, you're you're doing a project with Brisbane Marketing.
Yes.
So when you're like involved with so many different things, with global companies, as a citizen or as a person who comes from El Salvador, I think that kind of not only educates people but also like puts El Salvador on a map.
I'm hoping so. Yeah. No, I'm hoping to take out the stigma of things, because you get to see really bad things from El Salvador. Which there are bad things, but there's also great ones as well.
Yeah.
And the Australians going there can prove that, and so many tourists that go there. And hopefully it's going to start growing a lot more. But I try to spread the word as much as I can about the lovely things about El Salvador and how great it is and how nice the people are and all of that. Because there's always going to be good and bad everywhere.
Yeah.
So now when I do these things, I do them aiming to not just learn about whatever my task is in those places. It's just cultural-wise. I was talking with somebody the other day, an Australian person, and I said, it's great, and I've loved the experience here. But it's kind of difficult to see sometimes, because when somebody asks me, what are you looking forward the most when you go to Australia? And I said, to be honest, walking freely in the street. Which sounds stupid for somebody, but it was just me not having to think what I'm going to have to wear, for example.
Right.
Being able to take public transport without feeling scared.
Yes.
Which for some reason for some people they take it for granted.
Yes.
Not to blame them, because luckily they lived in that way.
Yes.
So the same way that for us that live maybe in countries that aren't as rich as Australia, it's really nice to come here. When they go there, they appreciate things back. So it's really great how you can cross that over. So the Australians that I've met that have traveled a lot, they got a lot more empathy with these things. Or they want to help more, or they want to be part of that culture. Even from silly things like when they go to dancing salsa classes and things like that, they love it. And I think we love seeing them there because we see that they want to, melt into the culture. It's great. So those kind of small things that you can do. So, and you know how we're in Latin America, for example, we're known to never being on time, or bad things, really bad ones. Trying to change that. I'm not saying it happens 100%, like today, but most of the time.
But it's a huge campus. It's generally a huge campus, and I know your schedule. I definitely know how hectic it is. So and it's great because you've actually DJed for. I think one of our other ambassadors from India, Swastika, she was part of the Association for Postgraduate Students, and they had a party, and you were the DJ there.
It was madness. It was, I would say, one of the coolest, most mixed, weird gigs that I've done. But it was so great because I thought, okay, so I'm trying to see what kind of people would go, what kind of music they would like. Oh, this is students, fresh graduates, or something like that. I'll go for like pop English songs because they're from so many countries, but we all,
connect on English.
With English. So I thought Dua Lipa, Calvin Harris, this and that. Okay, I started off with that, people having a good time. And then I get this lovely Chinese girl asking me for a salsa song.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. To start off, how do you know that song, right?
Yeah.
It was massive, but I wouldn't think they would go all the way to China, but it's great.
What song was it?
Yo no sé mañana. Yo no sé mañana.
No, I don't know. I know one song.
What is it?
I think I've told you this. It's by Manu Chao. It's called
I remember it. It's a cute song. It's
an
so
amazing
nice.
song.
I've got a mix of that one. I think I played it that night, actually.
That's nice.
And then I had, I wouldn't normally play those because it's not my genre or anything. But we ended up having this crazy night. I played tracks. Because there were some guys from India that asked me for some songs, and I'm like, I have no idea. But I have this app, so if you find a remix of it, I'll be able to fix it. So they were searching for those stuff. And when they found it, I'm like, I actually know this song.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was great to play it. And then I had people requesting me La Gasolina. I'm like, seriously? I'm running away from having to listen to all that music. I love it, but it's past that time. And it's been years since that. And I never actually played. I didn't even play it back home.
Right.
And I came here and I'm playing it in here because I wanted to please them and I wanted them to have a good time. So I was playing Spanish, English, Punjabi, anything. So I'm like, okay, this is quite a night. So no, we had a really good time to the point where I pretty much left the deck and just went and dancing with them. So no, it was great. It was great.
So that's really nice that you have like different inspirations, but you also have like different. You've also ventured out into different kinds of music over time. That's really nice because I think that kind of encapsulates the experiences that you've had by traveling and meeting different people and different cultures.
It varies, and it helped me when I was traveling. So, for example, you would know a little bit about the audience and what they would want. So you end up, learning. So if you would to come back, you would kind of know more about what they like. So in Kazakhstan, they loved the Spanish vocals in it.
You performed in Kazakhstan?
Yeah, I was there.
Wow! That's amazing.
It was so cool. And then I also had a guy that knew a bachata song, and he started singing to me. And I didn't have my phone with me, and I'm like, you sound so cute, a Russian guy singing a bachata song. I'm like, but I couldn't record him. Anyway, so I was there, and just being there is a whole new experience for me. And I thought, I'll give it a try to some of their songs, because I really had no idea what they would want.
Right.
So I remember having a couple of remix songs with Spanish vocals in it. They were like kind of mimicking the Spanish one. Yeah. But just the fact that they loved it, I appreciated it so much. And it was like, oh, this is so cute.
Yeah, because it's like with music, because it's getting global. The pop music is getting global, but there's also like when you go to different areas in different countries, everyone has like their inherent style of music or influence of
music. Or what
music.
they've been influenced
by.
So
I get it. That is very tricky, and then to find that the songs that you like are something that they are jamming to.
Exactly, particularly because I don't have my own music. So if I was to have my own music, I just play A to B and that's it. Yeah. And I would know that they like it. That's where they booked me. But in my case, they wouldn't really know what I'd be playing. Right. So you appreciate that a lot more. And
that kind of makes you versatile in the sense that you don't have to stick to what you produce.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It kind of like gives you the flexibility of, kind of customizing your music as people are reacting to it.
Yeah, exactly. I can try to, try things out and see what
it's actually I also did improv comedy, and it's actually very similar to improv comedy.
I think so. Yeah.
Because
like, you don't know what you expect.
Yeah, exactly. You can't really. You can plan it, but you can't fully plan everything.
No, you don't. You don't know the reaction of people.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't see if you're back home. You know your audience a lot more, so you would know what you're going for. But in other places, you just have no idea. Particularly, like a very different country for what I had been all my life. So no.
That's really cool. You should have a shirt, Mazzi, that says I DJed in Kazakhstan. I would wear, like, if you got a shirt that said Mazzi DJed in Kazakhstan, I would wear it.
It was great, and to be honest, I had a really, really good time. And the clubs were so amazing.
Yeah.
So amazing. So much like luxury and stuff like that. And they're great. I loved it.
Yeah. Is there anything else that we might have missed out? That you want to talk about?
It's been such a nice chat. I'll see your notes because you've been talking at me everywhere. I can see. Let me see. Oh, football. We might not get into that because...
I knew it. I shouldn't get into that.
No, it's great. We are very passionate with that. As all Latin America. But
the only reason I thought about talking to you about Honduras and El Salvador is because we have India and Pakistan in cricket.
Oh, right. So the rivalry?
Yeah, we are very passionate. But it's also at this point, it's very friendly passion.
Yeah, you get the most conflicted things with the country that you most probably more similar to.
Right.
So it's kind of silly.
It's very crazy because we don't have the rivalry. Like even it doesn't happen in football and cricket itself. Like even in other sports like America and Canada.
Yeah.
They have this friendly rivalry.
It's the same thing. Like we have a lot of rivalry now with Mexico.
Okay.
But we get influenced by Mexico every day, so it's kind of silly. But with that one, I have a funny story because there was like what they would call the soccer war.
Football war,
Yeah, the football war.
Yeah.
Yeah, I shouldn't say soccer. Football sounds better. So in Malaysia, I was in a shop, like a clothes shop, random one.
Yeah.
And I liked it because it was like a garage one.
Yeah.
There was one said the football war, and it's in the year, I can't remember which year it was, and it said El Salvador.
Yeah.
I have a picture of that. I say, how the hell? People wouldn't know. If somebody buy it, they would have no idea. And this is Malaysia.
Yeah.
Like, it's not relevant. It wasn't an actual, war in that sense. But yeah, we're not the greatest one in football. Hopefully we'll get to be one day.
But you're doing pretty decent. Like, you were in the World Cup twice, We haven't been in the World Cup even once.
Yeah, if you compare it to that, not that we did the greatest record in the World Cup, but at least we got there.
We got, yeah.
No, we've got really, in Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's quite, recognizable person everywhere, and he's, people love it because he's back home now.
Yeah.
But when he travels to Spain and all of that, they adore him. So it's great. Like, we've had quite a few ones that have been recognized everywhere.
Yeah, I think we've...
Thanks for all the details and for reminding me.
Because I like... I like doing my research.
No, you're very good at this, because that's why I asked you if you were, like, in this... I do remember that you were actually studying... we had spoken about this, like, difference in your career and all that. But don't you agree with me? Like... Yeah. For some people, we'd be like, why don't you just pursue this and get specialized on this?
This is crazy because it's a funny story, because when I was coming to Australia, I was actually going to a counselor because I was kind of trying to figure out which uni would be best for me, what course would be the best for me. It wasn't very helpful, but I kind of got some perspective. So when I went to the counselor, like, I kind of forgot to mention which course I'm interested in. I was talking about my interests. But like the first meeting, right? So I was telling her what I've done. I was telling her everything. Maybe I even mentioned what I wanted to do. Right. But then she gave me a follow-up email about, like, she did her own research. Yeah. And they were all like, they were like NYU filmmaking and everything like that. I was like, I don't want to get into filmmaking. No. And she's like, you're crazy. Why not?
Because you have it in you and you talk about it greatly.
I did a lot of, like, filmmaking in college.
I did that before uni. There's like a questionnaire that you can fill out and they'll give you recommendations. It was never there engineering. I think I got even nursing or something like that. Like, because it says something like silly questions like, do you like taking care of people? Oh yeah, of course. How am I going to say no to that? Things like that. So nursing came out and I'm like, I don't think I'll be able to do that. No. So, but it's the sense that most people would be like, no, you have to just pursue that.
No, but the counselor was really sweet. She was genuinely very confused. She was like, she's like, I don't get this.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people get that with people like you and me, because there's a big range and nothing says that this is not going to help you.
Right. But there's also an inherent fear that comes with it. Like, I've been here, I've been doing a little theatre here and there. I've been doing this podcast thing, but I haven't really been doing proper filmmaking. And I kind of like, there's always like this fear that, like, because there's this choice between two things that you love.
Exactly.
And the fact that you're not choosing only one, kind of like, you ask yourself, like, are you compromising, things like that? But I think with you, you've done an amazing job with that. And that's what I want to take as an inspiration, is that you haven't given one more priority and the other on the sideline. You've done both of them. You had earlier invited us to this one place where you were performing, and I wasn't able to go for that. Yeah. And I regret that. But the next time you're performing anywhere, I would love to be there. Not just because you would be a great DJ and I would have fun, but also because I think it would be really cool to like just look at people around and be like, that my friend is DJ.
Oh, thanks.
That would be really
I
cool.
haven't actually pursued it that much, but it's one of my goals for this year. So once I finish a couple of things and paperwork, things that I have to do, I'm hoping to do something to do with music, because I miss it. Like, I felt like I needed a break when I left home. Yeah. It was like 3 weeks into here and I'm like, oh my God, this is hell. Like, I haven't spent so long without being in either radio or playing or something. Music. And I missed it, so no, I have to get back on track, hopefully soon.
And that'll be fun. And this was absolutely fun. Thanks so much for taking your time out. I know you're very busy.
No, that's fine.
And I really appreciate it. And it's been some time, because I wanted this to be like the first thing, because that was like because you were like the first person that kind of sparked like, okay, I have to do this podcast. But I'm very happy that we were finally able to do this, and I hope you had fun.
I have as well, and I'm very curious with your notes, with everything you guys
because that's how you mentioned how at your job when you were like doing admin and things like that, you were still able to apply like your other skills. Yeah. So this is me applying my skills of research.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so you're so good at it. It's because it's interesting. You know how there might be people that have studied for this and might not be as good as you are. So that's what's fascinating, because it doesn't mean that you have to be the best academic. It's what's in you. Yeah. So I might not be the greatest DJ or anything, but I've tried my best. And there's always going to be worse people and better people. So as long as you do what you love.
Yeah. And I love this, and I have a lot of fun.
I can see that. So
And at the end of it, like, I just podcast after podcast, I'm learning so much more. Like, I think in the last podcast I mentioned that this is obviously like something that the listeners can enjoy and learn and be informed and get a new perspective. But I also get to learn so much, and it's amazing. It's like, when you teach, you're actually learning more.
Yeah,
it's like that.
It's the best way, and that's great. Thanks for that.
Yeah, and this is amazing, and thanks everyone for listening. I hope
you stick for the whole time.
They are quite long. And I'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Are you gonna make it happen today? Or will you just settle for another delay? Come on, you gotta make it happen now. Come on, you gotta make it happen now. Said, are you gonna wait and sit on your hands? Or will you go and start making out a list of demands? Cause you can make it happen, so choose a bit your passion. Don't move, but start attacking, don't lose out on the action. Are you gonna make it